not let you destroy my world!
Greetings, Temple Legends. Your favorite mentor, Archon Okvals here. The temple is once again open. After a timely warning from my colleague Archon Preacher, I realized I made a catastrophic branding error in the naming of the temple community. So from this video forth, I shall refer to you all as the Temple Legends, for that is exactly what you are. This video marks a special occasion. For the first time ever, the temple will host a mod, although calling this game a mod really feels like an understatement. The level of quality in writing and gameplay puts some modern games to shame. Today, the temple proudly hosts Enderal Forgotten Stories.
Someone's coming!
Women nowadays just don't want a man to court them anymore. That's the problem. I tell you, sometimes I long for the good old days, back when I could lift a skirt and nobody would bat an eye.
In this video, I'd like to show you how, even when using someone else's narrative tools, if you take the time to create a strong identity and vision for your work, you will not just thrive, but surpass the original your work was based on. If you stick to the end of the video, you will be a creator who will understand how to properly make their work stand out, or an audience member with a refined taste for unique and interesting stories. Considering the state of modern gaming, it may be time to pass the torch to the modders. So, without further ado, let's wake up from a nightmare, get washed ashore, and see the world through the eyes of a German.
Tell me, what is time to the dead dreaming anyway?
So many people just talk, and
How
never
does it feel to be powerless?
This is about your damn pride, Tina.
I know I'm not real. At least not according to your definition.
I know damn well I'm doing.
Crisp.
There was nothing I could do.
This isn't happening. But then again,
This just isn't happening.
what is reality anyway?
Oh yeah, it's that type of game. But first, a word from today's sponsor, Reddit.
Religion is a sickness, Aranthiel, and it is the cause of pretty much all the evil that has happened in this world over the past millennia.
Šta sam jeo, ben ti pa Miljušić?
Samo veče ću da...
A šta sam jeo, nemoj da ti lupam ovu glavu? Šta sam jeo? Šta? Šta sam jeo?
No!
his eyes. Master, this is the red madness.
Shit, of course. You will put away that pickaxe right now, my sir, and then get on your knees.
This is disgusting.
She will stay.
Holy shit, dude!
By the righteous path!
If you watched my Gothic or Deus Ex reviews, you'll remember the term defining plot element. In short, it is a story characteristic that looms above the setting, and has such a mass effect on your world that people can't help but think of your work when they notice it somewhere else. For example, magic barriers immediately remind me of Gothic, while any form of augmentation in games reminds me of Deus Ex. However, the defining plot element has what I like to call subclasses. These iterations of the defining plot element are so unique in how they were executed that they become separate narrative tools. The disturbing plot element does loom over your world, and it also has a huge effect on your setting. But the difference is in how it does these things. A defining plot element usually stands out with some big, flashy or unique concept that sticks in your audience's mind. A disturbing plot element, however, disturbs the audience into paying attention. It is a concept that causes quite a bit of discomfort the more your audience thinks about it. It taps into the morbid curiosity that we all have as humans. A well-implemented disturbing plot element gets the audience to ask themselves, what would I do if this happened to me? So what does the disturbing plot element of Enderal look like? Well, it takes the shape of a supernatural affliction known as the Red Madness. The Red Madness is a terrifying affliction that causes an individual's mind to slowly degrade, up to the point of almost complete loss of oneself. Once the affliction is in its final stages, the eyes of the sufferer turn ghostly red, and they begin attacking anyone or anything. Worst part of all, it's not limited to human beings. Any living creature can be affected by it. When enough individuals are affected, the world becomes a place of endless, senseless slaughter. There is no clear transition pattern, no obvious cause, and most of the time you only notice it when it's too late. What's most terrifying to me, as someone who believes in the strength of the mind over the body, is how even the wisest and strongest of wills can just as easily fall to this affliction. Like, for example, a wise veteran battle mage, thoroughly set in his logical skeptic ways, until...
Madness! What we do is madness! This is the only way to break the cycle. One glance was enough to understand her suffering. To understand that there's no other solution than ultimate death. One day, you will understand that. You too, fleshless one. And now, we have to die. It won't change much. But maybe it will make her just a little happier. Forgive me.
The final terrifying aspect of the Red Madness is the fact that there are no safe places. Whether you are in a heavily guarded holy temple or alone in the woods, if the Red Madness wills it, you will be claimed. As a result, wherever you walk in this world, there is no tranquility. Even in the most beautiful, serene places, the specter of the Red Madness is in the back of your mind. This tension is further reinforced with the occasional vision your character gets, hinting at dark secrets in their past and about their present self. Finally, we've reached it, the first great differentiator of Enderal, the Red Madness. In Skyrim, while there is certainly a feeling of dread with Alduin on the rise, it is but a pale shadow compared to the terror of the Red Madness in Enderal. Now let's see how you can disturb your audience the right way. Just like the defining plot element, the disturbing plot element falls into the universal lessons category, so there will be no need to divide the lesson by creator type. Whether you're a screenwriter, game designer, or novelist, in order to effectively use a disturbing plot element, you need to ask yourself these questions. What are the primal human fears? Do any of them relate to my story? How do I express them with a disturbing plot element in an impactful way? For example, you can take the primal human fears of mutilation and loss of autonomy as the core of your disturbing plot element. If your story is happening in a time of great uncertainty and change, where societal order is fracturing, then these fears absolutely relate to your setting. Finally, the most impactful way you can express these fears with the disturbing plot element can be an affliction that first breaks the mind and eventually morphs the body until the audience is left in an ocean of dread and confusion. Your disturbing plot element doesn't have to be all dread and horror. Sometimes people can be disturbed just by what they are willing to tolerate. Add a terrible bioweapon to your setting, which was used to usher in a time of peace at a horrific cost. With this kind of disturbing plot element, the audience will ask themselves questions like, why does this exist? Is it immoral to support this thing? Is it really necessary? Regardless of how you choose to implement your disturbing plot element, the point is to always get your audience to debate each other, and well, it's the 9th video, so I expect at least one correct answer in the comments as to why debates are important for your work. Now that you've been properly unsettled, let's move on to... Oh my god, it took Archon Okval's 9 videos to start recycling content. Again with the OB, what's next? This situation is crazy videos? I know, this is the 3rd video where I'm mentioning the OB as a lesson. However, Enderal, Deus Ex and Gothic all have fantastic OBs, which should be praised. Even more importantly, however, is the fact that a well-implemented OB is a fantastic narrative tool. It can literally be a franchise saver because it can keep the audience hooked if the main story fails to do so. When I say hooked, I mean sticking with you even through tough times, so that they can see how the OB is resolved. Unless of course you fuck up the resolution, in which case your franchise deserves to die. Ah, but I see the new arrivals asking, what the fuck is an OB? Archon Johnny, play the clip. Archon Johnny, not that one. Yeah, that's the rune. Okay, just play it. So, an OB stands for Ongoing Background Event. As the name implies, it is an ongoing event that is happening in the background of the main story. It is characterized by the fact that it can never take center stage during the course of a given story. Its main purpose is to expand your world in the eyes of your audience by making them feel like the story they are currently involved in is but one of many. Now that we're all caught up, let's see what kind of Obe we have in Enderal. The Obe of Enderal manifests itself in a sequence of smaller, seemingly separate events. Banditry, uprisings, violent revolutions, and even entire wars happened and are currently happening during the course of Enderal's story. Even the Red Madness partially functions as a smaller Obe, serving to complement the main Obe of the story. Without a doubt, the most significant of these events is the fall of the Lightborn, a group of powerful wizards that eventually came to be worshipped as the ruling gods of this world known as Vin. Eventually, as you play through Enderal's main story, you see all these smaller ongoing background events coalescing into one huge, ongoing background event. An Obe that has been going on for as long as Vin has existed. The Cycle. What is the Cycle? You know I can't do this scene justice by just talking about it. You need to see it, and don't worry, I'll leave a skip time for the TikTok generation.
3 things. First, there were many civilizations before us and before the Pyreans. Maybe hundreds, maybe thousands. Second, the history of each civilization unfolded and still unfolds according to a pattern. They emerge, they blossom, and at some point, at the apex of their existence, they simply disappear without any trace. And third, everything that has happened in the past years, and which is still happening, indicates that this disappearance lies ahead of us. We are part of an eternal loop, a cycle, and our cycle is approaching its end. I see why you would say that, and I've felt the same way for a very long time too. But there came a moment when we simply could not deny it anymore. We began to study the history of the Pyreans more intensely, and the parallels were extraordinary. In its early days, the Pyrean Empire was split up by a disaster, just like Vin was split up by the Starfall after the reign of the Eterna. Also, the Pyreans had a ruling caste who declared themselves gods after the catastrophe. The 2 castes of the Sun Priest. They, too, ruled until they were overthrown. This overthrowing was followed by an outbreak of wars and chaos. And then, just like that, the Pyreans ceased to exist. They knew it was imminent, but they could not prevent it. They called this event the Cleansing. That is the question we need to find an answer to. The end was not violent, at least not in a sense as we know it. There was no natural disaster, no magical explosion, no plague. Even though there was war in the Pyrean Empire before its ruin, when the cleansing happened, it was as if all living beings simply fell down and died. It is ghastly.
The music, the ambience, the goddamn dialogue. I love this scene so much. So, the main Obe of Enderal is called the Cycle. And it— wow! Nice Obe, Aron Okwals. You mean just like Mass Effect? Mass Effect already did that? Mass Effect the Reapers? Mass Effect— To those making this argument, I'm about to shock you. But the writers of Mass Effect did not in fact invent the concept of cyclical cleansing. Both stories draw inspiration from the concept of eternal recurrence. If you want to see someone who covered this concept far better than me, go watch Ramble Lime's video on the topic. I'll link it in the description. I'm 99% certain that only those who didn't play Enderal make this comparison. Once you finish the game, you realize how Enderal's cycle and Mass Effect cycle have only surface level similarities. So, if the main purpose of an Obe is to make the world feel bigger than it actually is, by letting the audience know that important events are happening elsewhere, outside the main story, then the cycle honestly overachieves in this regard. Not only does it give the audience an amazing mystery to debate on, but it also recontextualizes everything we've experienced up to this point. Bandits swarming the roads, undead rising in crypts, people going insane. None of this is happening because, well, the player needs gameplay. No, everything is happening as part of the pattern of the cycle. The gameplay you experience is not separate from the story, it is the story. All the problems you encounter are being encountered by everyone else in this world. You are not an outsider player character messing around in the world. You are part of the cycle in more ways than you can imagine. As a result of the cycle serving as the main OB, there is an excellent feeling of healthy tension that follows you throughout the entire story. When combined with the Red Madness, you achieve peak immersion in the world of Vin, its struggles, and finally its fate. We have reached the second great differentiator. While you definitely care about the fate of Nirn during the course of Skyrim, at no point is there a shred of doubt that you will succeed. You are the Dragonborn, the blood of Akatosh. All your enemies will fall before you, and you will enjoy the good life in your lakeside manor filled with orphans. In Enderal, you're not even sure if the character you made will make it to the end of the game. This is because we have the icing on the cake of the cycle in the form of visions. You get these visions quite a few times during the game, considering your character passes out more than a minor at a Hollywood party. And no, these are not visions of Shepard chasing a little boy through the woods and waking up naked. These are fucking nightmares that torment you as part of the cycle's pattern, by depicting the upbringing of a typical German child. For example, we see a classic prank that German parents play on their kids called "Wenn sie kein Deutsch sprechen, werden sie denken, dass die ein Witz darüber ist, dass die deutsche Sprache zu komplex sei." Arbeitsgemeinschaft. So now that we've explained what Enderal's OB is, and what it's supported by, let's get to the lessons. Now I know this seems like a lot to take in, but the OB is actually quite simple to understand and implement for all creators. It all starts with two questions. What else is going on in my world, and how does it affect the main story? You can then add a unique twist, which Sure AI used, and that is to break up your main OB into smaller, seemingly scattered events. You still achieve the effect of making your world feel bigger and more alive, but then you add the shock value of "oh my god, it's all connected" on top of that. In the past, I warned creators that adding too many OBs can confuse your audience, and actually take them out of your world. Well, if you want to know how to use multiple OBs without scaring away your audience, this is how you do it. Multiple, at first glance not at all connected events that eventually coalesce into a bigger OB that rocks the very foundations of your world. For example, smaller OBs can be various uprisings, magical disasters, or strange curses which you eventually tie together into something great. As before, the best way for your audience to learn about these events is through the comments of side characters in the story. However, one huge mistake you must avoid is resolving the OB in your first game, book, or movie. Yes, the OB is happening in the background at the same time as the main story, but it must be ongoing even by the end of the first story. The OB or OBs need time to cook in the minds of your audience. The greater the debate they generate, the greater the immersion in your work. However, this puts greater pressure on you to deliver a satisfying resolution 2 or 3 books or games down the line, so be careful how you handle that. A messed up OB can leave a bad taste in the mouth of your audience for quite a while. If you want to see the effects of a well-implemented OB, look no further than the Enderal ending memes. If you finish the game, of course. Skyrim will always be remembered for its open-world gameplay, as a true behemoth of the industry at the time. Enderal, however, will burn far longer in the hearts of those who finished it, as a moving, unforgettable story. It didn't just generate an insane amount of quality debates among fans, it also made us wonder what we would do if we were ever put in an impossible situation on a cosmic scale. With the lessons of this cycle completed, let's move on to...
I mean, hey, you are a keeper of the first sigil now, aren't you? I believe congratulations are in order. Everyone knows about Ixen, and the fact that you're asking this shows how little you actually understood. You're pathetic, you know that? Simply pathetic.
I said you are pathetic. At first we believed it would be more exciting this time. But now that we've seen the new prophet, our hopes are gone. You're a joke.
A nobody who let his only friend kick the bucket.
As if you'd ever accept that. You humans are always so damn persistent, aren't you? Why? Why can't you just let go?
Because in the end, you are powerless, just as all those before you. And you, prophet, you are the biggest joke of all.
You are nothing but an urchin.
A weakling.
and a murderer.
And that is why you will burn. All of you.
By Malphas. Sorry, my Temple Legends, there is no way to cover these lessons without spoiling the story. If you haven't played the game, here is the skip time. I hope to see you back here once you finish Enderal. Now for the rest of you who played through the entire game. Am I the only one who got absolutely hooked on the story during this exact moment? That switch from a safe place to absolute cosmic horror is just chef's kiss. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's first define what a force of nature antagonist is. As the name implies, it is an antagonist that has a purposeful lack of relatable characteristics. They are very difficult to humanize because they are not meant to be seen as human. When done well, this creates an adversary that can be absolutely terrifying, and figuring out its real motivations can be a source of great debate among fans. If this term sounds familiar to you, it's because I briefly mentioned it in my Neverwinter Nights 2 video. Basically, Obsidian could not decide if they wanted to make their antagonist a tragic hero or a force of nature antagonist, and sort of left him in this unrelatable middle, which the fans failed to relate to. Enderal has no such issues, as the writing team fully committed to the force of nature antagonists, and they are terrifying.
Yes, that's it. All I need is a piece of your flesh, and nothing like that will ever happen again. But why? Is that so hard to understand? I don't want much, just a small piece of it. But you just don't want to share, isn't that it? You want it all for yourself. Because you're vain. And in all your damn vanity, you don't even see the futility of the whole thing. The beacon won't burn. It never will. Thousands have tried it before you. Thousands who are as arrogant as you are. And they all failed.
They say, just let yourself fall.
Because the light will burn you. It will devour you. Until there's nothing left of you. Nothing but burnt flesh.
Nice and crisp. You're familiar with that? Or... you.
Prophet.
Nicholas Litzau, you have my eternal respect, sir. Not only did you create a story that stands out in the insane competition of the 21st century gaming market, but you also created an antagonist that will stick in the minds of your fans forever. It is a pleasure listening to you speak about your work, and I honestly can't wait to see what you do next. So, what is the force of nature antagonist that Nicholas Litzau created for Enderal? Well, for one, it's plural. The force of nature antagonists of Enderal are known as the High Ones. They are ethereal beings living outside the reality of Vin, outside of time itself. They are the creators of the cycle, and they are the ones responsible for wiping out hundreds, possibly thousands of previous civilizations. But why? Well, I don't want to spoil how the end stage of the cycle known as the cleansing is triggered, in case anyone who didn't play the game stayed to watch. However, I can say that at the end of every cleansing, a new High One is born, pulled together from the souls of countless victims killed during the cleansing. I honestly can't imagine what a creature made up of the souls of countless victims even looks like. This means that a single High One has the collective consciousness of an entire civilization, and oh my god, I knew it! Mass Effect Reapers is just like Mass Effect. Fine, that part is just like in Mass Effect, except it's done infinitely better. In Mass Effect 3, the motivation of the Reapers is basically revealed to be a stupid AI star child coming to a retarded conclusion that makes no sense when you realize what its original purpose was. In Enderal, the motivation of the High Ones is hauntingly simple. Before I tell you my interpretation, listen to this exchange, and write down in the comments what you think their motivation was. Except for you, Nicholas, if you are even watching this, that would be cheating. Now the exchange.
The cleansing will happen, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. What have you done to us? You are so naive. The world is an interplay of cause and effect, and the only logical consequence of your existence is annihilation. That's the way it was, and that's the way it's going to be. But enough of the banter, urchin. We wanted to meet you, and so we did, even though the result is rather sobering. Now wake up! Keep on stumbling through the mist.
This motivation is... goddamn. Almost everything has a beginning and an end. The opposite of existence is destruction. Unlike the comically complex motivation of the Reaper Starchild, the High Ones present their motivations with frightening clarity. To deny them, to try and debunk their arguments, it's as if you're arguing against the very laws of nature and entropy themselves. Sure, you can say that they are just parasites feeding off the countless deaths of millions, but are they? All the conflicts, all the tragedies that have befallen Vin up to this point, don't the High Ones give them meaning? If the High Ones are removed, what is the point of them all? What does it all mean? They are not some contrived, faulty invention of organic beings, they are a natural extension of our existence. Finally, unlike the Reapers, whose power comes from the fact that they are uber-advanced killbots, the power of the High Ones comes from mortals. As the Black Guardian puts it...
Do you understand now? The High Ones have no power. All they do is to feed on our weaknesses, manipulate us into bringing about our own destruction. It is we who forge the sword that kills us, we who lead them to their victory, even though the key to salvation has always been in our hands. But instead of realizing our folly, we make the same mistake. We repeat the same fate over and over, and only because we refuse to see the truth. Yes, the High Ones are our enemy, but who wants to hear that it is our ego, that dark voice within us, that empowers them? It is so ironic. The moment we would realize all this would be the moment it all came to an end. But we do not.
So, if their existence is the direct effect of our existence, what are we fighting against? Why aren't we just accepting nature as it is?
Why can't you just let go?
Nice try, High Ones. You masked your motivation well behind human nature, but this also reveals the biggest flaw in your logic. Yes, it is in human/mortal nature to project our fears, prejudices, and inner demons onto the world, releasing destruction on a scale hitherto undreamt of. Maybe even destroying ourselves in the process, just like in the cleansing. However, it is also in human nature to overcome, to come back from the edge of the abyss, to restore, to have hope. Yes, all things come to an end, but the option to choose how it ends is also part of human nature. For a very long time you chose how it ends for us. You manipulated countless civilizations to give in to their fears and destroy themselves for your gain. You are nothing more than another collective fear that we have to overcome. What makes you different is that you hid the choice to overcome you from us. However, at the end of this cycle, for the first time ever, one of your prophets has seen the choice through a moment of lucidity. And now the whole of Vin will experience this moment, and they will see the choice you hid from them. I was meant to be the instrument of your destruction and despair, but now I will be free. I will be the instrument of hope for Vin. I will give them a chance to overcome you, a chance no other civilization got before. I believe after this true ending, both Vin and I will be free at last. Kalia.
And teardrops were running from her eyes, yet she thought, if only I believe time will bring him safely back to me. When the red moon casts its light, his ghost travels through the night, through the forest on wind's wings, until he reaches the old hill. There she kneels before his grave, where their love had once been born, and he caresses her face, yet she feels not his embrace. Dark and red glows the winter sky, two souls divided by the threads of...
Alright, that's enough. Again, let's just move on to the fucking lessons. God damn it, I love this game. Oh yes, before the lessons, I just want to point out that we have arrived at the third great differentiator. While Skyrim's Alduin is presented as a force of nature meant to end the world, he is but a light breeze compared to the hurricane of existential horror that are the High Ones. Now we can get to the lessons. The force of nature antagonist is thankfully very simple to understand and implement. As with the Obe, you have to start with the proper questions. What do we as humans still have trouble understanding? What thoughts do we humans try to avoid? Is there currently something in the world we are powerless to stop? The unique answer you give to these questions can determine the characteristics of your force of nature antagonist. You can choose to implement only one answer or all three. For example, we humans do not understand death. We try to avoid it, but in the end we are powerless to stop it. The death of everything as a concept can be your force of nature antagonist. Now I'd like to give you some advice based on what type of creator you are. For screenwriters and game designers, I have very simple advice. Twist your audience's visual and auditory senses. If the story is already breaking their minds with the logic of a completely inhuman entity, make this effect stronger with the proper visuals and audio. Research what visual phobias humans have and implement them into the art design of your antagonist. Within reason, of course. Research what sounds cause humans to feel a sense of unease and implement them into your soundtrack. For example, take the sound a building makes when it's caught in a hurricane. Imagine that paired with distorted visuals and logic of an inhuman entity bent on destroying everything. Novelists, although you don't have visuals or audio to help you, you can do something freaky to mess with the minds of your readers. Have them break the fourth wall and speak to the reader. Purposefully use contradicting words when describing the force of nature antagonist's appearance, so that the audience gets the sense of this being unnatural in some way. You can also blur the line between what they are by mixing gender pronouns or having them refer to themselves in singular or plural terms. Finally, you can make the force of nature antagonist dialogue purposefully confusing. You can do this by having them mimic human sayings, but intentionally misunderstanding them by using words to describe things in a way a human never would. This is a lot harder than just adding twisted visuals and audio, but let me try and give you an example. A normal human can say, "My life is a precious light among countless in the vast universe." An inhuman force of nature can exclaim, "Your life is but one leaf on a burning pile." Oh yes, one final universal lesson for all creators. Try and have your force of nature antagonist's logic mimic the laws of nature. I say mimic because you are supposed to give your audience a different answer to this mimic interpretation of nature. Yes, the High Ones are right that it is natural for all things to end. However, they are incorrect in assuming that the only end to existence should be a horrific and sudden extinction event that just happens to serve their needs by making more of their kind. Trust me, it will feel so rewarding to your audience if they can debunk an entity that is a seemingly unstoppable force of nature. In the end, I'd like you to understand that, just like the disturbing plot element, the force of nature antagonist should make your audience see things from an uncomfortable perspective. By operating within human logic, it can force your audience to face uncomfortable truths of life, and with the right healthy mindset, to deal with them. Plus, I think we can all agree that facing uncomfortable truths from time to time is a good thing.
Make use of your good servant, and go to your master then. I release you to the wheel. Oh, God, no. Do you see it now? the monster that you served? Is this what you imagined when you worshipped it? No! And in that knowledge, go and feed it. I release you.
Your petty actions are irrelevant.
With the lessons of the story and setting complete, let's move on to
humans are odd. They think order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't be. But there is grace in their failings. I think you missed that.
They're doomed.
Yes. But a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts.
Before we begin, I'd like to give props to Virtual Carbon, whose Games with Dying Worlds video made me appreciate this aspect of Enderal even more. Link in the description below. So, as the name says, a fading world is a world in a video game, book or TV series that's on its way out, so to speak. Everywhere you look, there are signs of decay, and even when looking at beautiful vistas, there is that sense of impending end. The cause of the upcoming end can be known, or it can be in the background, an orb if you will. In the case of Enderal, I have to praise Sure AI for their unique approach to the fading world. In Enderal, you don't just see a ruined castle and think, oh yeah, this world will end soon. No, first you have to learn about the main orb of the game, and only then is the entire world recontextualized for you. These ruins you visited aren't just cool places to explore because, gameplay. No, they are the signs that the end of your cycle is approaching. This revelation and recontextualization hit me like a ton of bricks the first time I noticed it. Walking on the ruin-covered verdant shores of the Sun Coast, traversing the ravaged Powder Desert, marveling at the decimated structures of Talgard, all those moments will be lost, like tears in the rain. And that is glorious. Now some of you might be wondering, but what if I don't explore a lot as a player? Trust me, just traveling with Jasper to Ark will get you to appreciate the fading world of Enderal later down the line. This trip really helps you get immersed in the world and slowly take in its dying beauty. However, even with all these advantages I listed, the fading world of Enderal would only be half as impactful if it weren't for the quests. Oh my god, the quests. Now don't get me wrong, this is not a critique. These are not horribly over-depressing quests added just for shock value. They are sad in a way that complements the fading world. For example, you have the quest where you have to help a small boy named Rhaenys, the favorite figure of his little town. However, by the end of the quest, you realize that the entire town was an illusion, and in reality, poor Rhaenys was born as a misshapen cripple, which caused him to have a short life full of hardship. One night, the town's disgust for him became so great that they barged into his home and killed his father, the only person that loved him. As a desperate child attempting to escape this horror, he reached out to the very magical artifact you are in town to retrieve. This artifact created an illusion of a perfect town, a perfect community, and a father who is still alive. However, now that you have completed your quest and retrieved the artifact... Malphas. Now that you have the artifact, poor Rhaenys' world and life fade away, and you are just left standing there to watch. Mentor? I need a moment, just play the goddamn clip.
Daddy? Daddy, is that you? I'm so sorry about the vase. That was Thoris, and I... Yes, I saw one of them this morning. You were right. You know, sometimes all you need to do for a wish to come true is to hold on to it long enough. Can you start us a fire now, Daddy? I'm cold. So cold.
I mean, is there a situation where the death of a child isn't sad?
Hey, you there! Yes, you! Do you want to know a secret?
Oh, okay, I concur. Even the central hub of Enderal, the grand city of Ark, is not immune to the effects of the fading world. When I first explored Ark, I immediately thought, scale-wise, it was one of the most immersive cities in gaming, with the minor nitpick of a lack of aesthetic diversity between the poor and noble quarters of the city. Hey, there can only be one king of game cities at a time. Nevertheless, it was a bastion of light and civilization through most of my playthrough. Every time I returned to the Sun Temple atop Ark to resupply, I felt rejuvenated and once again filled with hope. Then Enderal decided to take a page out of the Evolving World book of Gothic 2. Although not applied to the same level as in Gothic 2, the change in the world state around Ark allowed the fading world to reach its peak. As you get into the latter half of the game, the bastion of hope that is Ark comes under siege from an army of fanatics from the continent of Nehru. They attack Ark from 3 directions: here, here, and the main assault path here. Thankfully, you manage to close the gates just in time and erect powerful barriers to keep out the lunatic Nehrumis. However, as the last gate is sealed, you come face to face with the leader of the Nehrumis, a character from the previous game, Nehrum at Reddit's Edge.
That the death of the Lightborn was going to change things, but they were just a symptom, not the cause of the sickness. The cause is religiosity itself.
Without spoiling too much, suffice it to say Ark does not get the cavalry charge at the last moment treatment. This is because a companion I shall not name goes all Bulgarian on you near the end of the game. That's all I'm gonna say. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the impact that the well-written companions have on the story. The beauty of this fading world really shines in certain interactions with side characters. Smoking weed with Jasper, chilling on that tower with Esma, and finally dancing with my love Kalia. These moments are temporary and short, but as Vision said, a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts forever. Finally, I'd like to mention the role of music in maximizing the effect of Enderal's fading world. Marvin Kopp, Simon Autenrieth, and other composers who helped them, you have my utmost respect and admiration for the work you did here. There was not a single moment where the music in this game was not in sync with the fading world. From the amazing intro to that very last cathartic scene, the music is superb. I honestly hope all of you have long and amazing careers. Alright everyone, pay attention to the projection pedestal. Time to get immersed in some music and visuals before we get to the lessons. And that's our fourth great differentiator. Although Skyrim tries to sell us the idea of a fading world due to the threat of Alduin, it doesn't even evoke a third of the fading world feeling compared to Enderal. So that's about all I can say regarding the amazing fading world of Enderal. Now on to the lessons. Let's get one thing out of the way first. A fading world does not automatically equal depression, nihilism, and bleak visuals. Quite the opposite, by making your fading world more beautiful to look at, you'll achieve a far greater impact on your audience by making them experience the fading beauty of the environment. Also, you do not have to actually end your world, which is basically the setting for your stories. You can simply change it irreversibly after the story is done in some meaningful way, or have it be saved at great cost to the heroes. If you successfully convey to your audience that the world is ending in some way, it will massively increase both their immersion in the story and their appreciation of the quiet moments in the setting. They will stop to listen to that seemingly unimportant character. They will take the time to appreciate a beautiful sunset in your world. Most important of all, in the case of video games, they'll fight like hell to preserve this fading world they became attached to. However, make sure to keep a healthy sense of tension and escalation throughout the story. You need to make sure that the actions the players are taking to stop the end are thematically appropriate. So no war asset farming for Volus fart jars, for fuck's sake. So, which questions do you need to ask yourself when making a fading world? Regardless of the type of creator you are, you need to ask yourself these questions. What kind of end is coming to my world? How will I present the signs of this looming end in the world itself? Finally, ask yourself, how can I make sure the theme of the end stays strong in the fight to stop the end? For example, the end of the world doesn't have to be an end so much as a changing of an age. These signs are present either in ruined structures or simply in the deserted nature of the setting. Finally, the theme of the end can be presented with a 2 steps forward, 1 step back progression. Enderal does this last part wonderfully, as every win against the high ones feels like it's counterbalanced by 2 more problems. And of course, show the characters getting more desperate as the setbacks pile up. The end should not just be affecting the world, but the characters as well. Also, showing the progression of the fading world gradually rather than just boom, everything's on fire, is a much better way to sell your audience the coming end of your world. Now for some specific advice based on the type of creator you are. Game designers and screenwriters, since you have access to visuals and audio, you're up first. Now I don't want either of you to think, easy, I just put in some ruins and desolate landscapes and boom, a fading world. No, stop. First of all, whatever desolation you decide to show in your setting, make sure it's aligned with the first question I told you to ask yourself. What kind of end is coming to my world? Yes, a devastating spell plague can result in desolated ruins and landscapes everywhere. However, if the end is some kind of soul malady that targets only living beings, the desolation should be far lower on the scale. Instead, you can have mostly well-preserved but empty large cities, making the audience wonder what happened. Once you've aligned the visuals with the end, make sure the composer is clued in on the theme of the end, and that the music matches the visuals. For example, the theme of a soul malady apocalypse can have powerful vocals implemented into the music, followed by epic but sad beats depicting the grandeur that was lost on a civilizational level. If you want more examples of how to match the music of your world to the fading themes, simply stop by a tavern in Enderal and listen to the bards. Don't get me wrong, I love The Tale of the Tongues, but Enderal's bards blow Skyrim's out of the water. My favorite Enderal bard song is called Winter Sky. No, I won't play it, I don't want to cry again, just go look it up. Novelists, apart from applying the universal tips I gave you, here's what you can do as a novelist to help sell the fading world of your setting. Frescoes and outsiders. In the case that only ruins of a previous civilization foreshadow what's coming, describe some frescoes, man. Yes, games and movies can have frescoes too, but your advantage is your choice of words. Slowly foreshadowing what is to come through frescoes and making your audience debate among themselves about what the images you described mean is a great way to sell the coming end. Alternatively, if the end is more on a spiritual level, possessed individuals who speak of horrific things to come, and in a way that's just inhuman, will also work as tools to sell your fading world. So that's it for the lessons from the fading world of Enderal. Now, I'm not saying that every world-ending threat requires you to use a fading world. However, if you want to sell your audience on a sense of urgency about what's coming, then these lessons can help you do just that. Now let's move on to... This is a term that I haven't used since my Neverwinter Nights 2 video, but no worries, it is super simple and the lesson is quite short. 1,000 fitting miles is when a creator who created a fairly large narrative ensures there is a plethora of different locations spread out throughout the long journey. Apart from being just visually distinct, these locations also offer new insights into the world and story. Finally, the problems of the denizens in these locations are appropriate to the location. In other words, there is no wow side quest effect.
Ah, hero, we need you to collect 10 boar asses for us, for the Alliance. Ah, hero, we need you to collect 10 fell boar asses for us, for the Alliance.
Let me make one thing clear. There is nothing wrong with having a long storyline that is set in only one location. If the quality of the story is good, you have nothing to worry about. The 1,000 fitting miles are simply for those creators who already envisioned a narrative across multiple distinct regions of the world. In simple American, a great story in a single interesting location is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. A great story enhanced with 1,000 fitting miles is a PBJ sandwich with whipped cream. So, what do Enderal's 1,000 fitting miles look like? Well, I'd like to use two adjectives: abundant and appropriate. Now, the second adjective is really important, as it never feels like Sure AI jammed in as many locations as possible just to say, look at how many locations we have. Every diverse location you visit feels appropriate to the part of the story you are in. The verdant scenery of the Sun Coast, the Heartland, and the Farmer's Coast feel appropriate for the naive beginning of the adventure as you play the role of hero in as close to a typical fantasy setting as possible. The eerie visuals and music of Whisperwood, the Dark Valley, and the Crystal Forest slowly reveal what kind of story Enderal really is, alongside the type of quests you have in these zones. Finally, walking in the fading ambience of the Golden Forest, Thalgard, and the Powder Desert, you're fully aware of the fading nature of the world, and the quest to save it. Additionally, all the visuals align with this theme, as do the quests. If I were to pick one area that best fits Enderal's story themes, it would be the Golden Forest. The permanent autumn ambience very much matches the theme of your quest. I was going to put the plethora of different areas as a fifth grade differentiator between Skyrim and Enderal, but I realized lore-wise it would not be fair. Skyrim is only one region of Nirn, while Enderal is an entire continent, so saying Enderal is a way better setting than Skyrim because of its vast array of visually distinct areas does not feel fair. However, I will praise Sure AI on a pure gameplay level. You see, even though Enderal is an entire continent, the map is actually slightly smaller than Skyrim. Nevertheless, the developers made use of every inch of the map, to the point it really does feel like you're exploring an entire continent. I think the secret is in the great way they used verticality. For example, when you are crossing the mountains with Jasper on your first journey to Ark, the mountains dividing the Sun Coast from the Heartland are not actually big at all. However, the vertical design, combined with the snowy ambience, makes it feel like something out of The Lord of the Rings. As I said, the lesson will be quite simple. When creating a setting for your epic story, try to determine a rough number of large locations you want to have in your story. Then it's a simple matter of asking the right questions. What kind of distinct visual/audio elements can I add to each location? How do I make the problems in this place appropriate to the location? Finally, how do I align these locations with the progression of my story? For example, your location/story progression can look something like this. One of the first major locations you visit and the problems you encounter there are heavily tied to the themes of your story. Then, later in the story, you can visit a location whose quests and visual design are meant to evoke long-buried feelings in your character, the beginning of the path that led them to become who they are. Lastly, the look and feel of the final location can be a direct representation of a huge choice your character made in the past. The people they meet in these types of final locations should sort of be a final trial of character for your protagonist. Alternatively, if you are using a fading world in your setting, you can match the location progression with the fading nature of your world like Enderal did. Finally, a last bit of advice if you're a game designer or screenwriter/director. whatever extra budget you need to allocate to your composer or artist so they can do the best job possible in making your locations both visually and audibly distinct, just do it. Whatever extra expenses you had to undertake will be returned 100-fold if you can give your audience 1,000 fitting miles for their journey through your world and story. Invest in a few extra meetings with the composer or artist so they can have a full understanding of the story you are trying to tell. Trust me, in the end it will be worth it. And a final bit of advice for game designers only. If you actually want the players to see all these locations you created with extra blood, sweat, tears and money, make exploration rewards fantastic. No climb the tower for a 360 spin of the map bullshit, but actual rewards in unique items or spells like in Enderal. This is quite similar to Gothic 2, which makes sense since I think the developers of Enderal were partially inspired by it. Now, as with any game, it's time to move on to... There are none. I'm kidding, of course they are. However, as a compliment to Sure AI, most are based on nitpicking and things that won't bother most people. And no, I'm not exaggerating here. Enderal does things so well, it takes actual effort on my part to try and find flaws. I think this is because Enderal is so great at incentivizing roleplay that it actually masks its flaws. The game does this first through little things like unique animations for simple activities like smoking a fat one, or actually seeing NPCs use quest items in the game, like teleport scrolls. There are also NPC reactions to your choice of race, and reactions to when you kill their companions. Then you have the bigger things like superb voice acting, for the most part, especially the companions. On a pure gameplay level, having cooking and food actually be useful is a chef's kiss advantage. Although still limited by Skyrim's simplistic dialogue UI, they did their best to expand it to enhance roleplay. The explanations you get for both how magic works and how your character levels up are fantastic and natural, and I wish more developers put effort into this rather than just going, "Lol, you raised some numbers bro, what more do you want?" Speaking of magic, the Battle Mage for me is the optimal class for your first playthrough of the game, as it will give you the best of both worlds experience. I also think canonically this is the best class for the protagonist whose shoes you fill, the mysterious wanderer they call...
And there you are. They call me Prophet.
The roleplay of the Prophet's journey is then further enhanced by the excellent location-appropriate missions, one of my favorites being the Aged Man Mansion. Of course, the Prophet is always on edge, as no matter where he goes, the threat of mind-breaking visions and the ever-present arcane fever loom in the background. You traverse the land on the best fucking mount in gaming, period. There are no other mounts in Enderal, don't listen to them. There is only the glorious whirlwind.
Less promise and stand firm, one smooth light shines right onto the seas we shall on. Return in victory, there marched on.
Also, the backpack is visible on your back, and if you don't understand how this helps immersion, you better get the fuck. Also, I don't care what people say, kill cams are glorious, and I'm glad Sure AI carried them over to Enderal. Especially when you are fighting to keep your girl Kalia safe. Finally, there are just places where every element in Enderal, from story to gameplay, just comes together so perfectly, you'd be completely excused for calling it a perfect game.
But, well, I guess that's life, isn't it? It's only on your deathbed as you lie there shitting in your sheets that the past lets go of you once and for all. Kind of pathetic, isn't it? No. What?
tribute has been offered.
However, despite all the advantages I listed, it is not a perfect game. Sure AI, I love you. I love your story and themes, but why the hell do you feel the need to yank me out of the experience with my character blacking out constantly? Is the Prophet narcoleptic? I get it, you want us to feel immersed in the moment, but you already did a great job with the environment, gameplay and story. You don't need to force us into it like we're a young Hollywood star. Now I understand that no game is bug-free. That's fine. Some games make bugs feel like features. However, game-breaking bugs are inexcusable. Thankfully, I only ran into one, but it was so persistent that I thought I wouldn't be able to finish the game. I'm talking about the Sun Temple NPC suddenly becoming hostile for no reason because a bounty on your head pops out of nowhere. I was thankfully able to find advice on an obscure Reddit thread on how to fix it. Basically, you have to open the console and remove any bounty on your character's head, and you may need to do it multiple times in order to progress through this segment. There are multiple reasons why this bug is unacceptable. For one, it happens in the Sun Temple, the main hub where most of the major plot events happen. However, the worst reason is the timing of the bug. It happens just before Theodore gives his big speech about the cycle. It almost ruined the moment for me. Now, full disclaimer, I did use the GOG version, so maybe the Steam one doesn't have that. But yeah, in case someone else runs into this, now you know what to do. Apart from these two bigger issues, the rest are small, but can pile up to ruin the experience for some people. For example, I'm fully aware that this is a free mod, done for free, but some of the reused assets from other games were really jarring, to the point of breaking immersion. There are also instances where you are auto-saved into a surprise attack by a powerful monster after the loading screen. Your choices are either to reload an old save, or try to run past the monster and attack from a distance. However, this is only a problem if you forget to save often. And that's pretty much it for the failures. What can I say, Temple Legends? It is a really good game. Now let's go over the super simple lessons of this segment. No matter what type of creator you are, you need to learn when to let go. Trust that the effort you put into the story presentation is enough to draw the audience in. Trust your audience to get immersed in the story. Do not try to forcibly push them into a moment just because you want them to experience a certain story beat in a specific way. If you want to see people who've mastered the art of letting go and trusting the audience, look no further than Larian. Also, I know it may seem like the term bug only refers to game designers, and that it's enough of a lesson to just say, game designers, make sure no game-breaking bugs get past the QA team. However, I believe immersion-breaking bugs can also appear in novels and movies, but unlike in games, they can't really be patched out later. This can be an over-reliance on a certain visual gimmick in movies, or having an entire section of your multi-novel story be referred to as the slog. So, novelists and screenwriters, keep an eye on those bugs unique to your mediums. Lastly, I'd just like to give some advice to game designers specifically working on mods. Look, the amount of respect you will have from me and the Temple for the work you do is endless. One modder team even managed to do the impossible, give a 2-decade-old game series a complete trilogy. I understand that working for free on something so complex is daunting, and taking shortcuts by reusing assets is always a temptation. However, trust me, devote that extra time to make your aesthetics as unique as possible to your world. The aforementioned Chronicles of Myrtana team did just that with their visuals in Archolos, which is why the mod will be eternally loved by both myself and the Gothic community. So those are the very simple, super short lessons from the failures of Enderal. Like I said, not a lot of failed material to learn from. Now let us finally get to...
Potion seller, what do I have to tell you to get your potions? Why won't you trust me with your strongest potions, potion seller? I need them if I'm to be successful in the match.
So those would be all of the lessons from my second favorite mod ever. Sorry Enderal, Archolos did the impossible, and gave me the Gothic trilogy I thought I lost. I still think it's unfair to call Enderal a mod, considering the incredible journey it takes you on. A journey that makes you ponder the very nature of the human soul and existence. If you want to immerse yourself in a journey of wonder, struggle, pain, self-discovery, and finally hope and determination, then you can hardly do better than Enderal. I think you'll find that fighting a losing battle for a fading world can make you appreciate life all the more, and its small, precious moments. Let's say you're a creator who wants to tell the story of a fading world under threat of a force of nature whose disturbing plot element your audience will be forced to face as they go through the story. In that case, Enderal has just the right guidelines for you to follow. If you own the Skyrim Special Edition, you can get Enderal for free on GOG. Now comes the point in the video where the newcomers to the temple will ask, what the hell? All these lessons were for creators. Why the hell do I, as a simple audience member, have to learn all this? I don't need to learn it. Wrong! The age of the elusive creator whose methods only he and other creators know must come to an end. The amount of slop that has been allowed to pass as entertainment these days, all under the pretense of just trust us as writers bullshit, is too damn high. Most writers today, and I don't care who this pisses off, do not deserve the trust of their audiences. This is why you as the audience must know the theory, while creators have to learn the theory and put it into practice. By being aware of the tools of the creators, you can develop a better taste for quality storytelling and fine-tune your bullshit detectors. If you as the audience do not know the theory, then all the quality creators who apply these lessons will be lost to you in a sea of corporate slop. Simply put, you must know what quality is before you can detect it, and avoid being fooled by grifters. So heed these words, my enlightened temple legends, and let quality storytelling rise again through your refined taste. All you need to do is identify, appreciate, and support creators who provide you with beautiful fading worlds and forces of nature that, if you stand up to them, make you a better person. Identify a tastefully implemented disturbing plot element. Appreciate the beauty of a fading world, and finally support creators who trust you with the freedom to enjoy their stories at your own pace and in your own way. All it takes is one community devoted to preserving quality storytelling above all else, and you will have a better world and better people. Looks like that's it for our time in the troubled and beautiful lands of Enderal. If you want to know why this game connects with me on a personal level, well, it's all summed up in one quote from the intro.
This is the story of someone who wanted to be free.
Damn right I am. For my next video, I'll have more temple questions ready for you, and you better be ready with answers, because otherwise it's apathy. And as we all know,
apathy is death.
Apathy is death.
Apathy is death.
Apathy is death.
Statement. Apathy is death.
You've changed quite a lot since the first time you set foot in the temple, and in turn the temple has been changed by you as well. It's more alive and fulfilling, and for that you'll always have my gratitude. I hope in time a lot more people will come to stay with us at the temple. There are so many dormant functions we need to reactivate together. I truly believe that in time the temple community will become an aegis against lazy storytelling. We don't need some monolithic company to cure entertainment, because
we are the cure!
Feel free to like, comment and subscribe, as it helps with the upkeep of the temple, and helps those who are still climbing find their way here. Have a safe path down the mountain, and I'll see you next time in the temple.